That's that dance move we call getting low with Mo.
Is this what's best for me? I've never seen a sunset like this before. Watch the lights fading out upon the cliffs of the shore. I've never been this far from home. Now I'm stuck in the past. Is it too hard to see?
From our little sandbar just south of the city, we listened to the Interstate 20 traffic all night long. There was a time for me when that sound was comforting and regular. I slept beside the interstates nearly every night in my tractor trailer. It wouldn't keep me up, it would put me to sleep. Last night wasn't so bad. I feel like I haven't lost my taste for that noise yet. That's one thing that hasn't changed. What has changed is my body. I started the journey with lighter skin and darker hair. The further I go south and the more sun I expose myself to, the darker my skin and the lighter my hair. The river is changing, and the river is changing me, too. I'm starting to look more and more every day like a North American. It's inevitable being exposed to the elements constantly. The texture of my hair has changed, the color, my skin, and of course the muscle group that I use to paddle this canoe is growing as well. Barring any drastic changes, what we look like now is roughly what we'll look like when we finish this trip. We're only about 9 days away from the Gulf of Mexico. Vicksburg, Mississippi was our last major city. We've opted to take the Atchafalaya River down to the Gulf of Mexico instead of following the Mississippi the entire way. Before the Army Corps of Engineers built the dam at the mouth of the Atchafalaya River, it was growing every year and would presumably become the main drainage of the Mississippi into the Gulf of Mexico. But to keep the downriver cities of Baton Rouge and New Orleans commercially viable, they built the dam so the Mississippi would remain the primary drainage, wider and deeper. This modification to the river system was a resistance to change. They wanted to keep things the same and not allow the Mississippi to wither. From Baton Rouge to the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi is so wide and deep that it can accommodate ocean-going vessels, and we're not interested in dodging around them and competing with their bulk for the river. The way we're going to take looks much more narrow on the chart and avoids any cities on its course to the Gulf of Mexico, but until we get into it, that's all I know about the Atchafalaya. Because it's a different environment, a smaller river with more wetlands and bayous around it, according to the charts, I expect to see different wildlife, different nature, different soil type, and in general, a very different experience to what we've been doing daily out here on the Mississippi. We're still traveling south, but we were anticipating this change in the river, changing to something new. We took a noon lunch on a muddy bank across from the nuclear power plant. It was exquisitely hot today. This is a dead cicada. They sing best in the heat. This is the exoskeleton of a locust. And because it was so exquisitely hot, we decided to stay at lunch for an extra hour, try and get a nap, and then go back out on the river rested when it was a little bit cooler. But the day picked up steam as it went on, so it was hotter when we got back. Using the Army Corps of Engineers charts, satellite imagery, and landmarks, we determined our location and agreed to paddle for a couple more hours before we knocked off for the day. Like the visible changes the journey has made overall, I imagine the heat is making changes that I can't see. I'm guessing it's thinning out my blood. I've got some red spots on my skin, which I think is heat rash, but my nails turned orange and I have no idea what that's all about. I'll chalk it up to heat injury or all the carrots I've been eating and just hope it goes away when the trip's over. Maybe I picked it up walking around in all this knee-deep, thigh-deep mud. You never really know what your foot's gonna hit down there. Already I've struck 2 pieces of glass, and thankfully they were only minor cuts. This bank was such a disgusting mush that we decided in spite of ourselves to keep paddling till we found some solid ground to spend the night upon. I've been staying awake the first couple hours in my tent, waiting and waiting to fall asleep while I sweat. And the sleep I do get is brief and interrupted by daybreak. After many short nights in a row, I've built up enough in my fatigue bank to have one long crash that lasts the entire night.